From news and views, issues and opportunities, we'll have in-depth conversations with decision makers to find out what they know and what they think. I'm Lois Calderon, in for Rico Hizon, inviting you to join the exchange because your business is our business. Electric vehicles will soon make inroads to the Philippines as the government is set to remove tariffs on their importation. A welcome development for public transportation as Filipinos grapple with persistent rising prices triggered by costly fuel, while mindful of efforts to cut carbon emissions. It's a step towards efficient mobility while remaining environment friendly. The vision of sustainable transport in our C-Suite vision. The government is poised to cut tariffs on the importation of electric or e-vehicles as part of efforts to go green and fulfill the country's commitments to the global effort to reduce emissions and help address the climate crisis. Let's have an exchange with the Industry Development Services Executive Director of the Board of Investments, Maria Corazon Halili Dichosa. Now, to begin with, what is the rationale behind removing tariffs for e-vehicles and their parts over a certain period? We're talking here of just 5 years. It's temporary.
Yes, it's actually just a temporary removal of tariffs. Particularly, we want to cut the cost of electric vehicles so that it can be made more affordable to Filipinos. What's happening right now in the Ukraine-Russia war is that fossil fuel prices are increasing. And so with the use of electric vehicles, we also would want to cut on fuel consumption in the Philippines and therefore, also move the public transport towards more clean and more viable transport.
But most of the e-vehicles are luxury cars. They're over 1.2 million mark. Is that right?
Yes, actually, the price range would be 1.2 and maybe some, depending on the brands, would be more than that. So with the 30% reduction in tariffs, the idea there is the prices or the landed cost of these vehicles would be more affordable to consumers.
So that will be at par with the cost of traditional vehicles, therefore more affordable to a wider market. Now, describe to us the e-vehicle program and its impact on the transport sector.
The program right now is really to create the market demand for that. Currently, we actually have e-vehicles in the country, but these are mostly e-trikes and they are used in public transport. We have a few e-jeepneys and even e-bus. But I think we would like to increase that demand in the Philippines so that we also develop the infrastructure, because the more vehicles you have on the road, of course, the impetus to have more charging stations nationwide will be there. And also in generating more demand, there could be an expansion of local production of e-vehicles that will provide more opportunities for business and even for employment for Filipinos. But more importantly, in creating this demand for electric vehicles, we would also like to develop the opportunities for parts and components manufacturing in the country, particularly the batteries. As you all know, we are rich in minerals. We have the nickel, we have the cobalt and the copper, which are actually critical minerals for battery manufacturing.
How is the Board of Investments promoting investments into the e-vehicle sector?
Currently, we have different instruments or tools for the promotion of e-vehicles. One is the CREATE Act, which is the incentives bill, the incentives law that we have currently. So the manufacture and assembly of electric vehicles, the manufacture of its parts and components, and even the operation of charging stations, as well as the EV fleets for public transport and maybe for logistics purposes, are qualified for registration with the different investment promotion agencies in the country. And as such, they are qualified to avail of incentives which include, for example, income tax exemption, the duty-free importation of capital equipment for use in the assembly or production of e-vehicles and parts.
Which countries are being targeted for these kinds of investments?
That could be countries where we do not have FTAs, like the European countries, and even Taiwan, for example. And in terms of marketing or promotion of investment activities, we're looking at the lead automotive nations like Japan, Korea, who are also big into EVs. We're also looking at Germany as one of the European countries. We're looking at China as well.
What is your outlook for the e-vehicle sector?
We're actually very optimistic for the EV industry, because we also recently passed our EV Industry Development Act. So we're now starting the implementation of that. And then next year, of course, will be the start of the implementation of this tariff removal. So we're expecting that e-vehicles will be coming into the country. We'll be able to already create that demand for the e-vehicles, so that we can already develop the infrastructure for that.
Thank you very much for this e-vehicle investment exchange. Maria Corazon Halili Dichosa, Industry Development Services, Executive Director of the Board of Investments. Here's a rundown of this week's top stories. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas expects inflation, or the rate of increase in prices of goods and services, to have averaged at 7.8% in November, slightly faster than 7.7% in October, and similar to that in December 2008. House leaders are proposing a sovereign wealth fund that will be an investment tool to support economic development. It will be patterned after those in regional neighbors like Singapore and China. And the country's factory output slightly improved in November as demand picked up, said S&P Global in its latest report. Coming up on the exchange, where your business is our business. What is the state of the e-vehicles industry in the Philippines, and how can it reach more of our kababayans? We'll have an exchange with the Cordillera Basic Sectors Transport Cooperative. And e-vehicles will put the country on the road to sustainable transportation. We get the C-suite vision of Nissan and electric kick scooters. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Glad you're staying with us here on the exchange, where your business is our business. Electric vehicles are getting integrated into the Philippine transport system. This is in a bid to lessen the country's dependence on fuel amid soaring prices and make commuting more affordable. We get a front view seat of the country's e-vehicle efforts with Ivan Shane Regaspi, Fleet Maintenance Manager of the Cordillera Basic Sectors Transport Cooperative. Great to have you with us, Engineer.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Okay, start right away. Baguio City has conducted a test run of electric vehicles. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, ma'am. So we conducted, starting November 14, together with the manufacturer, GET, or Global Electric Transport, the UNDP, the OTR, and a consortium of universities here in Baguio, including our electric provider and some transport co-ops. So during our first test run, we were all impressed because in the past, some manufacturers have presented, but they have failed to overcome the challenging terrains here at Baguio City. But with this Comet electric vehicle, it was able to climb up the steep roads of Baguio City, even at full load capacity.
So, Ivan, there were kinks or wrinkles along the way, but you were able to iron that out. What's the preference of drivers, electric or traditional vehicles, and why?
Yes, ma'am. For the drivers, including their operators, they prefer the traditional as of now. So there is a resistance, mainly because of the price of the vehicles and their doubts when it comes to overcoming the challenges of the terrain.
So
But
there was resistance. Given that, will that hamper efforts related to the jeepney modernization program? What's your group stand on this?
yes, ma'am. So right now, we many are being convinced to modernize. Pre-pandemic and even during the pandemic time, many people are anti-modernization. But when they start seeing units na napapalabas, they are being convinced, and this is great progress for the city in order that we will achieve low carbon emission and even noise pollution here.
How do you think this modernization program or the e-vehicle program will help the sector fully get back on its feet?
Yes, ma'am. As of now, there are ongoing feasibility studies. Maybe there are transport sectors who are really resistant to electric vehicles. But for us, we can see that there is progress in the government supporting us. So they will be helping in obtaining electric vehicles for us here in Baguio City.
Thank you for this public e-vehicles exchange. Ivan Shane Regaspi, Fleet Maintenance Manager of the Cordillera Basic Sectors Transport Cooperative. Still ahead on the exchange, where your business is our business. Are more Filipinos making the switch to e-vehicles? We get the answers to this and how the move to cut tariffs on e-vehicles may affect business with Nissan and electric kick scooter next on CNN Philippines. News you can trust. Welcome back here on The Exchange, where your business is our business. Standing to benefit from the proposed cut in tariffs for e-vehicles are businesses selling them and motorists who advocate their use. What is the industry's outlook on the matter? We have an exchange with Nissan President Juan Manuel Hoyos and electric kick scooter founder Tim Vargas. Hello, gentlemen. I'll start with Juan. How are e-vehicle sales now in the country, especially amid the recent trend of fuel price hikes?
I think, surprisingly, Philippines is one of the countries who is more easy to adopt electric vehicles. We have seen that in many things. We have launched the Leaf a year ago, and it has been very well accepted. So we are very confident that we are in a good transition, and we know that this is a trend that will happen very quickly in the Philippines.
So Juan, you've launched the new Leaf just a few years back, and now there's a fresh stimulus there, the need to find a cheaper transportation to cut fuel costs. I go now to Tim. What do you think of the executive order for reducing tariff rates for some electric vehicles? How would this affect sales?
Definitely it will impact on sales, because it will. What we're expecting is it will lower down some prices for the we're expecting hopefully the entry level scooters, because the entry level electric vehicles, because that will really if we can start to transition people from using their regular internal combustion engine cars to a electric by I hope it's 1 million and below, that we can penetrate that price range. It will definitely affect the sales.
It's
a lot.
good that you pointed out the price point there, because I have a question for Juan. What are the price ranges for e-vehicles in the market right now? Because most of the e-vehicles are electric cars, are luxury cars, and they're only the wealthy in the Philippines, only the 1% population, the wealthiest, can afford them. How could the executive order affect that price range?
No, I think, for instance, I think prices go up to the 2 million, and I think that this is important because we understand that now the technology is is because it's not just the EV. The EVs has the highest technology available now in the market. It has, for instance, all the cameras, all the safety issues, and this is also why the price is high. We salute this new tariff because I think, yes, that reduction will have an impact and a benefit, direct benefit for the customers. But also, we need to understand that we also have technologies that can have, with electric motor driven, like our Nissan Kicks e-Power recently launched. We also have that availability to get on the price of the 1.3 million to the customer, which is very good for the technologies that the car has.
Tim, you've heard the price point there. What do you think or do you think it has caught on, or how can we encourage Filipinos to shift to electric cars, and what are the financing options given that they are more expensive?
As mentioned earlier, like the price is really the key. It's similar to what happened to the subcompact segment when the car manufacturers entered the subcompact in this car segment here in the Philippines, which ranges around like 500 to 700,000 pesos. That's the sweet spot of converting them. So if we can get something again in that price range around like maybe 700 to less than 1 million, definitely the conversion rate will be higher and faster than expected.
One, you're kind of new in the Philippines, first a few months since you arrived here and became Nissan Philippines president, and you've had long drives to the countryside, especially for your weekend drives. How ideal are Philippine roads for electric cars, and how does this compare versus other nations you've visited where e-cars are now inherently part of transport? What does the Philippines need to make that shift to electric cars?
Yes, I think my view on that one is the chief is not just on the low end of the cars. I think less and less we have more than 2/3 of the market is about 1 million. So the solution is not just below 1 million. And I think the chief has to happen in all the level of the industry, small cars, SUVs, all the aspects of the business. That is a transformation. And I think compared with other countries, there was incentives in other countries like in the US and Europe, and this is why it's the importance of what the government is trying to do with the tariff reduction, with the VIDA law, because fiscal and non-fiscal incentives is what will accelerate the change. We know that the change will happen. It's just how fast and how soon will happen. And because we know that we all are what we are trying to do is to do more sustainable. We are going to be totally carbon footprint neutral in 2050. But for 2030, we have announced that in all our key markets, we will have electrified versions. Today in Japan, 36% of our sales are electrified products with e-power mainly. And this is why, I'm just saying, EV is one of the things, but also we understand that there is still range anxiety due to the infrastructure. And this is why the Kicks e-Power is another solution, because it's a electric motor driven vehicle, but it's powered by gasoline. So those things will help us to get to a full transition to EVs.
Now, that's the landscape of the electric vehicle industry abroad. Now, Tim, what are the trends are you noticing in the electric vehicle industry here in the Philippines?
The trends that we're really noticing is the car will still be there, but we're seeing a lot of two wheels is going to fly on the road. So it's because of the traffic situation here in Metro Manila. So people are tend to finding smaller footprint options, road footprint that will make them faster traveling. Because we all know here in Metro Manila, our average travel time now is around 5 minutes per kilometer, which is really bad. That's as fast as running. So the trend now we're seeing is a lot of people are entering the personal mobility market, like the electric scooters, electric bikes, and hopefully electric motorbikes. That's what we're seeing. But the car industry will still stay there for quite a bit. But yeah, that it doesn't really improve the traffic anywhere. So that's the trend that we're seeing.
Well, thank you for this e-vehicle sales exchange. Nissan President Juan Manuel Hoyos and electric kick scooter founder Tim Vargas. And this is The Exchange. We make sense of the facts and the figures, the ups and the downs of the business cycle, because your business is our business. I'm Lois Calderon, in for Rico Hizon. Thanks for watching CNN Philippines, news you can trust.